Hello, my name is Patrick Blevins, and we're going to be talking about the origin of the blood cell types and how to ID them. We're just going to have a quick overview of the three different types of blood cells, and then we'll go into the five different types of white blood cells. Blood cells are the cells which are produced during hematopoiesis and found mainly in the blood. Blood is composed of the blood cells, which accounts for 45% of blood tissue by volume, with the remaining 55% of volume composed of plasma, the liquid portion of the blood. There's going to be three different types of blood cells we're going to talk about: red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets. First thing we're going to look at is the red blood cells. Red blood cells, a few of their functions are: they transport oxygen from the lungs to the cells of the body. They pick up carbon dioxide from other tissues and unload it into the lungs, and they are the most abundant cells in the blood. Red blood cells are formed in red bone marrow of bones. Stem cells in the red bone marrow, called hemocytoblasts, give rise to all formed elements in blood. The formation of these red blood cells takes about 2 days. The body can make up about 2 million red blood cells every second. And now I'm going to give you a little bit of a description of red blood cells. They are considered biconcave disc, which is round and flat. I would say that kind of look like a shallow bowl. They have like a thick rim and a thin sunken center. They do not have a nucleus, and they can change shape without breaking. Production of red blood cells is controlled by erythropoietin, and red blood cells contain hemoglobin, about 33% of it. The iron found in the hemoglobin gives the blood its red color. Red blood cells cannot repair themselves, and they usually have a lifespan of around 120 days. 400 new erythrocytes are produced per second in human adults, and around 20 to 30 trillion red blood cells at any given time are found in the adult body. The next type of blood cell we're going to talk about is white blood cells. White blood cells account for about 1% of the blood. These are the cells that make up the majority of the immune system. They exist in all parts of the body, including the connective tissue, the lymph system, and the bloodstream. There are around 4,500 to 11,000 cubic milliliters of white blood cells. The white blood cells is the part of the body that protects itself against from foreign substances and various types of infections. They are made up in the bone marrow from multipotent cells called hematopoietic stem cells. They exist in all parts of the body, including the connective tissues, the lymph system, and the bloodstream. And we're going to talk about two different disorders that we find with white blood cells. The first one is leukopenia. It's a condition where you have a low white blood count. It can be caused by things like medications, radiation, or even chemotherapy. And the other one I'm going to talk about is a condition called leukocytosis, where you have a high white cell blood count. This can be caused by different conditions such as infections, inflammatory diseases in the body, or various bacteria. They are divided into granulocytes and agranulocytes. There's 5 different types of white blood cells we're going to talk about, and each of those are divided in that. A granulocyte is one that has visible granules or grains inside the cell, and an agranulocyte is free of visible grains under the microscope. So the 5 different types we're going to talk about are neutrophils, eosinophils, basophils, lymphocytes, and monocytes. Neutrophils are a type of granulocyte, and they're the most common type of white blood cell. They account for about 62% of all leukocytes, and they have a multi-lobed nucleus present. There's around 2,000 to 7,500 cells per cubic millimeter. They're medium-sized white blood cells, and they have a diameter of 10 to 12 micrometers. Their lifespan is anywhere from 6 hours to a few days. A couple of their functions are they kill bacteria through the process of phagocytosis, and they also help release a burst of superoxides that have the ability to kill many bacteria at the same time. The second type of white blood cell we're going to discuss is the eosinophils. They're a type of granulocyte, and they have large granules if you're looking at them under a microscope. They do have a nucleus that's divided in two lobes, which also can be called bilobed. They have a diameter of 10 to 12 micrometers, and they account for about 2.3% of all white blood cells. Their lifespan is anywhere from 8 to 12 days. A couple of their functions are they kill parasites and have a role in allergic reactions, and they also release toxins from their granules to kill pathogens. The third type of white blood cell we're going to talk about is the basophil. It's a type of granulocyte as well. It's very colorful when stained and looked at under the microscope. They have a pale nucleus that is usually hidden by the granules, and it can either be bilobed or trilobed, or it can either have a bilobed or trilobed nucleus. Its diameter is anywhere from 12 to 15 micrometers, and it accounts for about 4% of all white blood cells. Its lifespan is anywhere from a few hours to just a few days. A couple of its functions is it helps secrete anticoagulants and antibodies that have functions against hypersensitive reactions in the bloodstream. Basophils also contain a histamine, which dilates the vessels to bring more immune cells in the area of injury. They also secrete heparin, which is an anticoagulant that promotes mobility of other white blood cells by preventing clotting. The fourth type of white blood cell we're going to look at is lymphocytes, and they are agranulocyte, which means they're free of grains when you're looking under a microscope. They are small round cells where there is a nucleus present. They have diameters anywhere from 7 to 8 micrometers to 12 to 15 micrometers. They account for about 30% of all white blood cells, and they have a lifespan of anywhere from years for the memory cells to just a few days for all the other types of lymphocytes. Lymphocytes are responsible for cell-mediated immunity, and they're also responsible for humoral immunity or antibody production. The last type of white blood cell we're going to talk about is a monocyte, and it's also a granulocyte. A granulocyte, sorry. It's the largest type of white blood cells. It's got a kidney-shaped nucleus present. There's around 200 to 800 monocytes per cubic milliliter. It has a diameter of 15 to 30 micrometers, and its lifespan is a few hours to a few days. It has a couple basic functions. It enters the tissue where they become larger and turns into macrophages, and it helps destroy old, damaged, and dead cells in the body. The last type of blood cell we're going to talk about is platelets. Platelets are the part of the cell that the body uses for clotting. You can find 450,000 to 400,000 platelets in each microliter of human blood. They are made up of small fragments of bone marrow cells. They do not reproduce, and they have small fragments of bone marrow. A few of their functions are their platelets are the parts of the cells of the body that uses for clotting. It helps to promote other blood clotting mechanisms. An example of that is it secretes coagulants, clotting factors to promote blood clotting. They secrete vasoconstrictors, which constrict blood vessels, causing vasospasms in the blood vessels. These are my references of everything that I used to do this presentation. And Dr. Blair, I do give you permission to use this and upload it for future uses. Thank you.